time to get fluent and chill with Anthony K of Sports Fluent and Jermaine J. Dub of Chilltown Hoops. It's time to get fluent and chill with me, Anthony K. J. Dub, how you doing, man?
In the house, what's going on?
Game 3, if you listen to us do the Game 2 recap and Game 3 preview, there was no surprises. We knew it was going to happen. The Bucks were going to go back to Milwaukee. They were going to have some fish fry, some beer, some frozen custard, that home cooking, and they were going to look like a different team. And they did, right?
They absolutely did. No question about it. The energy in the building was different. The surroundings were familiar. So it was just a completely different atmosphere. And they played like it. They absolutely played like it. No question about it.
Before we get into what the Suns did, I guess, wrong or what they didn't do, we always start with the winning team. So you got another 40-point double-double, back-to-back games for Giannis for that. The only two other players have done that. Shaq and LeBron. That's pretty good company.
Absolutely it is. Not to mention, not only were those the only two players to do it, they won the NBA championship too. So we can't leave that out.
Yeah, it helps. We talked about how that game 2, that 42 points might have been wasted. They're going to be kicking themselves. So I want to start right off the bat with, something we talked about, which was Giannis needs help, right? Like in game 2, we talked about a game that was wasted because he didn't get perimeter help. Mm-hmm. Now, let me preface what I'm about to say by saying I am not comparing Giannis to LeBron in terms of the way they play. Mm-hmm. However, it's really interesting for me because what I see in Giannis is what I see in LeBron in the sense that if he gets any consistent outside shooting, any consistent perimeter play, right? Both of these guys, if they have consistent perimeter play, they're almost unstoppable, right? Their teams rarely lose if they get outside.
Well, what happens when you're knocking down the perimeter shot, that opens up the defense. Now, you can't pack the paint. And now you have to be honest with Middleton. You have to be honest with Drew Holiday. You have to be honest with those guys. And now that just opens up lanes for Giannis to play exactly the way he wants to play. Because he wants to play in transition and he wants to play going downhill in the half court. And when you got guys like Holiday, you got guys like Middleton, you got guys like Forbes knocking down shots, that's huge for his game overall. Now, it's taking a Herculean effort of 40 a game in order for them to have a shot to win, but they're winning in convincing fashion. It's not like he's getting 40 and they in dog fights. He's getting 40 and they're winning going away. So
yeah, that 20 points I don't think tells the story because the run that they went on at the end of the second quarter, the run that they went on at the end of the third quarter, it was done. Like, let's be honest, the game was pretty much over at that point. But when you get, 14 of 28 from Holiday and Middleton combined, 8 for 7 from 3, you give Giannis that kind of support, right? You're going to have a tough time beating him. The other thing that we don't ever talk enough about is Milwaukee's defense looked like it was a different team playing.
Well, the difference in their defense last night was communication. PJ Tucker has a tendency to go off on his own. He's an older guy, and I know what I'm doing. But when you're communicating, when you're talking, so for example, they got Booker on cross screen action. Him, PJ Tucker, and Holiday are talking. Stay. Nope, I got him. Get around the screen. They're talking to each other as opposed to there's no communication, and now we don't know what we're doing. And they were making shots tougher on Book at that point. And that's all because of communication. All because of communication.
You did a really nice job on the telestrator there, showing one play in particular. I think it was actually Chris Paul, where on the screen, Giannis and I think it might have been Holiday, but I think it might have been Tucker. No, I think it was Tucker. It was where they switch, and you were like, they didn't need to switch there because of the way that play was. Giannis should have just dropped and stayed on. Should have stayed in that play, right? Is that what you saw a difference in Game 3?
Well, the action when Chris Paul is looking for that screen, the action is normally 22 to 25 feet away from the basket where he's looking for that screen. There is no action there. He's just looking to get a switch on the screen. So when Giannis, you see him in drop coverage, all Giannis is doing is holding up Chris Paul. So Connaughton can fight around the screen and Giannis can get right back to Ayton. We don't have to switch there. And that's all in communication. Get back. And they didn't do that. And that was the difference They didn't do that in that particular play, but they did that more yesterday, and that was the difference in the game with Holiday doing that, Middleton, PJ Tucker, just communicating with each other. Because guard on guard switching works. That's not a problem. Guard on big switching, especially when you're that far away from the basket, that doesn't work.
Yeah, I love Giannis's athleticism, but if you got Paul being guarded by Giannis and Ayton being guarded by Connaughton, you like those matchups, right? That's why they're running that play. They want you to make that switch.
Not only that, well, when you got Giannis covering Chris Paul that far away from the basket, he's away from the basket. That means he's not rebounding. That means he's not rim protecting. And they're at a disadvantage right now. So that's where the communication comes in, and that's where fighting over screens is so important.
So that's what Milwaukee did well, and that's why they won by 20. What the Suns didn't do well, I'm going to start. Listen, we got to start with the guy who I get the defense was better on him, but Booker shooting 3 of 14 ain't going to get it done. Now, I always bring up jitters and finals and young teams on the road. Home court advantage is a thing for me. Can he bounce back from this, or have they kind of figured something out?
Well, I think that they figured something out in the aspect of Phoenix's meat and potatoes of their offense. They like to get a lot of things going in transition. That's a lot of their game. So with Jrue Holiday picking up 3/4 court, that's huge, because now what that does, one, that slows up their transition game. So they don't get in their transition game, which is where Booker got a lot of his shots in game 2. He got a lot in transition. 2, Chris Paul is getting the ball across half court 16 seconds. They're not getting into their offense 12 seconds. And now they got to rush. And now that keeps them off balance. So that's huge for what Jrue Holiday is doing. That's huge for them defensively. Now, when we talk about them rebounding, Anthony, they're winning the dirty work battle. I mean, Milwaukee out-rebounded them 47-36, 13-7, 13-6 on the offensive glass, 18 second chance points in the second half. They're winning the dirty work battle. The difference is...
Now, they've been doing that all series, right? We should point out, they've been doing that all series.
Absolutely. The difference in this series will be Middleton and Jrue Holiday just being solid. Not just offensively, but defensively, just because we're not going to I'm not expecting Book to go 3 for 14 again. I'm not expecting that. I'd be asking a lot to see Book go 5 for 20. So no, I don't think that I'm going to get that again from him. If they could just continue to slow him down, and they got to get Ayton more involved in the offense. They have to get him more involved in offense. He only played 24 minutes.
He played limited minutes. I know that, look, they did a good job defending him, even though he shot, I think, like 8 of 11 or 8 of 14, something like that. Like, he had a high percentage, and I think he had 19 and 10. Like, he still, if you look at his stat line, you're like, oh, he had a nice game. But if you watch the game, that's why I always tell people, it's one thing to look at the box score. It's another thing to watch the game, because when they score, how they score, all those things make a difference. So for me, Ayton statistically had a nice game, but I watched the game. He was not a dominant factor. He wasn't a top 2 or 3 player for the Suns, really make a difference type of player in game 3. The question I was going to answer today was going to be about Holiday picking up 3/4 court, because before this series started, it's interesting. Maybe Milwaukee should have listened to us. That's what we talked about, right? Was picking them up, before half court, slowing down that offense. That was one of the things you mentioned. So it took them 3 games to figure it out, but they started to do it.
They did.
So we know that obviously Booker's got to shoot better. Ayton, how can they get Ayton more involved?
Well, they did that early. They did that early last night with getting Ayton involved early, where he was knocking down that pinch post jump shot right between the free throw line and the mid post. He was knocking down that jump shot. I'm thinking to myself, if he gets that going early as he was getting it going, if they continue to do that, Milwaukee's in trouble. But then they went away from it. Ayton is more of a pick and pop guy. He's more of a dive into the basket, pick and roll guy, which works. But they also can go to him on the block. They kind of went away from what he was doing. And a lot of that had to do with Jrue Holiday in the pickup point. He got them to get Phoenix in their offense late in the shot clock. When you're in your offense late in the shot clock, that means that we got to rush. And that means that the looks that we want to get, we can't really get them because we're disrupted. And if they continue to do that, I think Milwaukee's got a great shot.
It's interesting that when a team gets down, so I'm going to ask you a question here. When a team gets down, especially in today's NBA, if I feel like their instinct is to try to shoot their threes out of it versus sticking to what's working, chip away at it. Do you feel like they that's why they went away from Ayton a little bit and started kind of looking more perimeter based versus saying, hey, let's take this slow? Do you feel like they went, hey, we were down, we need to catch up real quick?
Well, and I think I said this to you before, Anthony. Mike Tyson got a great quote. Everybody got a plan until they get punched in the face. So soon as they fall in the hole, well, we got to get back in this game. Well, you didn't fall in the hole immediately. You fell in the hole over time. Now, you can get back in the game like that. The problem with Phoenix is what was working, they kind of went away from it early. And then Milwaukee just started playing harder than them. It wasn't like it was a situation where their offense was flawless. No, they were just getting better looks. And the reason why they were getting better looks because they were going harder. They were going harder in transition. They were rebounding more. They were winning the dirty work battle. And that's how Phoenix fell in the hole and found themselves going away from what was working early. I mean, he scored 28 points in the first quarter. They were winning. So instead of sticking with what works, they started getting outworked and immediately, well, we got to match this energy. Well, you do, but you also have to continue to do what was working, which was going to Ayton in the pinch post, getting Chris Paul going downhill, getting Book more screen and pop action. And but they went away from that. So that's where they got screwed up.
I also saw something that's a good sign for the Bucks. Giannis wasn't just, Giannis plays the way that he plays. I get it. But he was doing some things that he should do more of, right? I saw him, there was one particular play with Connaughton where he came on the left side and it looked like he was just going to dribble between his legs and either drive or shoot, which is what he typically does. But instead what he did was he passed it into the corner, set a screen, backdoor cut, and then Connaughton hit him, easy dunk, right? He needs to. Do you think he can consistently do that? Because I think when he does that, it just adds another. That also shows about. I think he's feeling more comfortable with his knee. But it's stuff that those are the things where if Giannis starts to do that, they're in a lot of trouble, right?
Well, the thing that a lot of people don't recognize is Giannis plays great off the basketball.
Yeah,
he plays. He's not good. He plays great off the basketball, especially when he has a solid playmaker, a guy that can create in the paint. That can draw the defense. Giannis plays great off the basketball. He's a very smart basketball player. And I like that action when you got the two-man between him and Connaughton, or you got the two-man between him and Middleton where he's throwing the ball and then diving to the block or cross-screening and then popping back to get a screen. It's great in terms of playing off the basketball. If he could continue to do what he's doing offensively, Milwaukee's got a great shot in winning this series.
All right, so that was game 3. So as always, we gotta look at game 4. I think for Milwaukee, it's easy, right? More of the same, right? Right now what they're doing is working. Do you think they need to change anything, or just like you said, they're doing the dirty work, they're out hustling them. Again, you need to get good perimeter play from Middleton and from Holiday. So they've got what they need to do for game 4. What does Phoenix have to do if they have a chance at stealing one? Because, I do want to go back on something. You said something last time we spoke when we did the game 2 recap, and I disagreed with you, and I didn't say it, and I want to put my disagreement out to you. You said, because a lot of people say this, and I know I'm in the small group that you said a series doesn't start until a team wins a game on the road.
Correct.
And I believe a series doesn't end until the team wins a game on the road, because if the home team wins, hey, that's just what's going to happen. The home team's going to win 4 games, and they're going to go 7. Great game. The series ends when a team wins on the road. So what can Phoenix – because think about it. If Phoenix wins, now they're up 3-1. Essentially, we've seen some people do it, but essentially the series is over at 3-1. So what does Phoenix have to do to go back to Phoenix feeling pretty good?
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I'm looking at what Milwaukee has done in terms of the dirty work and continue. Bobby Portis has to be on the floor. He played 18 minutes last night. He's an energy guy, and that's huge. What got Phoenix away, what Phoenix got away from was their offense being chased away from the basket. That's what got away from Phoenix. Milwaukee did a great job. They got to get back to what they were doing. They got to get their transition game back. They got to speed the game up like they did in Phoenix. They got to get Book going more in transition. They got to get Ayton going to the basket more. I mean, I'm not really thinking about Jay Crowder hitting 6 out of 7 threes. I'll live with that.
Hey, look, he hit 6 or 7 threes, 18 points, whatever, and they lost by 20. So
exactly.
I'll live with that. Yeah, I'll
live with that. Cam Johnson gave them great minutes. Cameron Payne gave them great minutes. If they could continue, if they could get back to what they were doing in Phoenix, where they were getting up and down the floor, where they were flying around offensively, and Chris Paul and Devin Booker were completely dominating as a backcourt, then I think that they right back in the series. They're in the catbird seat. All the pressure is still on Milwaukee. Milwaukee is down in this series, and Game 4 is pivotal because we can't go back to Phoenix down 3-1.
No.
You go back to Phoenix tied 2-2, man, we got a different series.
Hey, that's what. Look, when you go down 2-0 and you're going home for games 3 and 4, what does the coach always tell you? Hey, they handled their business at home. Now we need to handle ours, and that's what they need. And that's what they need to do. So, last question before I let you go: if Holiday picks up 3/4 court again, what can the Suns do to get out into that transition if they're picking them up?
It's difficult, Tom. It's difficult, Anthony, because Chris Paul is the catalyst. He's the head of their attack. So what he was doing yesterday when Holiday was picking him up, he was throwing the ball ahead to Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson is not a transition guard, so he can't speed up their offense. So Chris Paul has to, when he's getting picked up, he's got to try to beat Drew Holiday. He's going to have to try to beat him off the dribble, which is going to take energy away from him because Drew Holiday's not going to let up. He's going to continue to pick up at that pace. He's going to continue to pick up at that point to slow them down. So Chris Paul is going to have to, in my opinion, Chris Paul is going to have to try to beat him off the dribble to speed the game up. Otherwise, it's going to continue to be like this.
Okay, so your predictions for Game 4. Who you got?
Hey, I like what Milwaukee is doing. And if they could continue to do what they're doing, I think that they made it a series last night, and I think that they continue to make this a series. Okay. I think we go back to Phoenix tied 2-up.
You're not going to get an argument from me. I also got the Bucks winning Game 4, and we'll talk to you after that game to recap Game 4 and preview Game 5. J-Dub, man. Appreciate you.
Let's do it.